In 24 hours, lives changed and entire communities washed off the map.
Flash flood emergencies in effect in a lot of spots, all of the red outlined areas.
I already knew by noon that the shop was destroyed.
But in 365 days, you'd be amazed by the power of resilience.
People were like, what are you going to do? Are you going to rebuild? And I'm like, I have to.
I feel like everybody here is my family, you know, and I just want to protect them and make sure they're safe.
A lot of times we're going through hard places and dark places, amen. But God is right there with us while we're going through them.
Western North Carolina's recovery from Helene is a twisting, bumpy, heart-wrenching journey, one taking much longer than a year.
Our little community was just destroyed on September 27th, and it has taken so long to get a tiny bit of normalcy.
Built back by hand, brick by brick.
We're all sticking together. The community is tight, and it's getting better every day.
1 year after Helene, Western North Carolina wants you to know it's still here, and these are its stories. Welcome to Helene. 1 year later, I'm Tim Boyum. A year ago, Helene devastated Western North Carolina. And since then, our journalists have literally filed hundreds of stories about the recovery and the people and their stories. So we're going to meet up with those reporters across Western North Carolina again to talk about how everyone is doing 1 year later. We're going to talk about hope and the great recovery, but we can't ignore the heartbreak and loss. Perhaps no place has felt that loss quite like here in Fairview, where a landslide literally ripped up their lives. The soothing sounds of a bubbling creek are part of the soundtrack of life in Fairview. A mere whisper now compared to the horror of Helene's roar. Over the past year, we have talked to survivor after survivor.
You sound like a freight train come off that mountain.
Fairview's not a big place, but it faced an unfair share of grief. Less than 2,500 people call it home, but 13 were killed in landslides. We plan to reunite with those we already met, like Mona Roper.
Still, for a lot of us, it's still September 27th.
But we discovered news stories we could not ignore. Victims just now emotionally strong enough to share them out loud.
It's the worst time in my entire life.
Road repairs and shrinking debris piles are signs of the recovery. But the stories you're about to hear point to a lifetime of grief and even guilt.
Like a nightmare.
So many members of the Craig family live in this area of Fairview, it's known as Craigtown. But 11 of the 13 killed in Fairview died in Craigtown, and all of them were Craigs. We've met several of them over the past year. Jesse Craig lost his parents.
It's like a bad dream. Every day you wake up, thinking that it's going to be over.
Brian Craig lost his parents as well.
My dad and my uncle were the last two families.
This is where the house was?
Yeah, right behind us.
We are meeting Don Craig for the first time, just now ready to share his painful story. This was the view before Helene. Home video remains on his wife Angie's Facebook page. But on the morning of September 27th, this is what it looked like.
I walked out here and was noticing the power poles were starting to break off. She screamed, "Oh my God, Don." We looked, and you can see the width as it was coming down.
A massive landslide swept them away.
I went backwards into the slide, and I remember hearing gurgling sounds, and then I went unconscious. And when I came to, I started yelling for my wife.
It took days to extract all the mud out of his eyes, ears, and nose in his hospital bed. It was there he found out his wife of 46 years was gone.
They came and told me they found my wife. And she was one of the lucky ones because she wasn't just like a mile away. Some of them were 4 and 5 miles away.
So how are you feeling almost a year out now?
Exhausted.
We first met Mona Roper last winter. Fearing a landslide, her 21-year-old son helped her walk more than 3 miles through flooding and debris.
And one time I looked and I did see a lady that was deceased, and it was horrible.
A year later, we are back, and the memories remain fresh.
We looked down here and there was nothing. Everything was gone. And me and my other neighbor, we were like, oh my gosh, Jackie and Cynthia.
Mona introduced us to those sisters, somehow alive to share their story now for the first time.
We were standing there and all of a sudden something hit. And it was like we were being bombed.
Her truck was floating by. I said, Jackie, oh, something's going on. I think we're moving. She says, no, this house is bolted down. and then all of a sudden she realized we were moving.
The rush of the water swept it all away, including sisters Jackie Fenstermacher and Cynthia Dunn.
We hit so hard that metal bed snapped in half and it threw me about over there to that tree, knocked me out.
How long has it been until someone finds you?
2 days.
You sat there for 2 days?
Yeah.
Stuck in a deep pile of debris out of sight, the sisters waited and prayed.
We heard this lady singing, walking down the river. And we started like banging on stuff and screaming. She's like, I'm gonna go get help. She said, I'm like, please, I just flipped out. About 45 minutes later, she came back with like 4 men.
Do you feel differently about the creek now?
Oh yeah, I watch it like a hawk.
A year after Helene, Don Craig remains grateful to call Craigtown home, but the fear lingers. He broke 5 ribs, his sternum, his shoulder, and both legs in the landslide. As his physical recovery continues, he's living in a donated camper parked on his daughter's lot nearby.
I've been informed that I can't rebuild here because there's no dirt. They consider this a flood zone, which I understand. But my wish is I'm gonna make a driveway to the grassy area there. And I'm got me a single wide trailer and put it in there.
I feel this is temporary in that I hope we have a home, built. And that's what we're hoping.
In stories filled with grief and death, I find it important to remember life too. In this instance, how Angie Craig still impacts her husband in his latest struggle.
I got prostate cancer a couple of years ago, and she was there in the doctor's office with me. And she looked at me and she went, nothing to worry about. I got diagnosed not long, about a month ago maybe. The cancer spread into my bladder. And the first thing that hit my mind was Angie'd be going, don't worry about it.
These survivors are surviving, but the emotional toll looms larger than the brush piles that remain.
You'll wake up and I'm like, is that thunder? Is it raining?
And I hear about young people, it just like, it breaks my heart. I'm blessed, I know that. I'm blessed to be here.
Then there's Don Craig, heartbroken and left wondering why he survived and his bride did not.
Everybody that passed away, all my cousins and family and stuff, they died as couples, man and wife. And I've asked myself, why didn't we go as a couple?
But deep down he knows Angie would want him to forge ahead, and he's trying, one day at a time.
It's going to take a while.
Here in the heart of Craigtown, family members hope to plant grass to make it look lush and green once again, then talk about potentially rebuilding. When we return, we head to Swannanoa, where faith was tested in every sense of the word. But there is hope for every Sunday moving forward after weathering the storm. Welcome back to Helene 1 year later. I'm Tim Boyum. We've now moved from Fairview to the Swannanoa Valley, an area where our very own Justin Quisenberry grew up. Justin, good to see you.
Good to see you, Tim.
This church holds some special meaning, doesn't it?
It does. This is Beech Tree Christian Church. I came to Vacation Bible School here once when I was a kid. This is in the Beech Tree community where generations of my own family have lived. But this church has been around for 150 years. But this past year has been unlike any other, obviously. It's been a year of loss and destruction here and for so many people in the Swannanoa Valley. But despite all of that, so many people have told me that they've remained hopeful and they attribute their faith.
1, 2, 3, test.
Helene silenced worship services at Beech Tree Christian Church for much of the last year. The congregation still worshiped in borrowed spaces. But on this Sabbath, more than a dozen members, including Bill Hillerman, gathered again on this land they hold sacred.
It's a tough time because we're coming up on a year of a day that we'll never forget, and all the changes we've had to go through, but you've been there all the way.
This picnic shelter survived Helene. Feet away, their church did not.
4 classrooms, which included nursery, an office for the secretary, the pastor.
The storm took the building and a church member.
The water just took the back of the house, and they found him right behind the church here.
Helene took so much, but not Hillerman's hope or faith.
It's a trying time and it can be frustrating. You just have to focus on the positive and know the good Lord's going to take care of us.
Was this God's plan? You just say, God, I don't understand it, but I trust in you.
Pastor Mike Siemens has seen that faith in God and in other people pay off through help from strangers.
If he's got a plan here and he wants to rebuild and he wants this place rebuilt and honestly wants it done, he'll supply.
That belief is written in Scripture on the walls that remain here.
He satisfies the thirsty and fills the hunger with good things. That is Psalm 107:9.
The power of faith, hope, and water.
We were just crushed by what the water had done.
Still run steady here.
Isaiah 12:3 says, with joy you will drink deeply from the fountain of salvation. It's not the toxic, contaminated swill of those floodwaters, but it's the hope-giving waters of God's care.
Across the Swannanoa Valley in Black Mountain, Victory Baptist Church has dealt with its own peaks and valleys over the past year. Song.
And all my life you have been so good.
And Scripture.
Shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus.
Tell the story of this church's faith.
It'll amaze you where things come from. And I know during the hurricane we stood at awe a lot of times because trucks were coming in, people were calling, and God orchestrated all that. We didn't.
The church distributed supplies to those hit hard by Helene, all while dealing with the loss of 2 members. Pastor Randy Gregg's own sister and brother-in-law, James and Judy Dockery, died in a landslide.
Sure, it was sad, but it just made us long that much more, to be with them one day.
Pastor Gregg says the church is better today than a year ago.
I think a lot of people have grown through it, mentally, physically, spiritually.
Including his nephew,
He's a way maker.
Bruce Dockery, who's walked the path of the last year without his parents.
Since the beginning of recorded history, people have dealt with loss and suffering. I'm not special.
They were the couple that died in the landslide here in the Grovemont community of Swannanoa.
When it came down, half of the house was sitting right exactly where we're standing, like a big open shoebox. And the other half of the house, there was a house sitting right there. Their house hit it like a billiard ball.
Bruce, who I went to school with, grew up here.
It's like visiting an alien planet that's trying to pretend to be where I grew up. It's just, I know what everything is, but it's not what it should be.
His faith, though, has been a constant. When we were going to school together, you always had your Bible with you. Faith has always been a big part of your life. Has anything in this past year made you question your faith? Has it made it any stronger? How has it changed you think, spiritually?
I think stronger, if anything. Their lives really preached their own funeral, it was a sermon of its own. The knowledge that this isn't the end, it's just, I'll see you a little later, it's the only thing that's kept me through. If it was all goodbye, I don't know if I could have stood it.
You know, Bruce told me that he wants to build a memorial prayer garden where his parents lived. He said so many people were inspired by their faith, and that prompted them to help others after the storm. And that really was a symbol of what we saw over and over again, people having faith in the secular sense in their community and other people.
So what happens here then?
Well, they're still trying to figure that out here at Beech Tree Christian Church. The hope is that they will rebuild, but they know that's going to be expensive. They'll have to elevate the church in case there's more flooding here in the future. Over the last year, they've lost more than half of their congregation. They're hoping if they can rebuild that people will come back and the church will grow.
Got to keep the faith. Justin, thank you. Coming up, we head to Chimney Rock, Lake Lure, and Bat Cave, tourism destinations in North Carolina devastated by Helene, but the spirit of the mountains giving them hope to rebuild. Welcome back to Helene. 1 year later, I'm Tim Boyum. We've arrived now in Lake Lure. And you know, Lake Lure, Chimney Rock, and Bat Cave, they are huge tourist destinations. But since Helene a year ago, they have largely been shut down. And Chloe Selsameda has been here a lot over the last year. We can hear construction going on, very much in recovery mode here still.
Yeah, here in Lake Lure, crews are still removing debris from the lake because there was so much that washed in there from the neighboring communities just up the river. And we're standing right next to what was the Flowering Bridge. They just demolished it a few weeks ago. And this area doesn't look like how it did a year ago or even 2 years ago. But this was a community where they really had to dig themselves out. There was so much debris in the roads here in Lake Lure and Chimney Rock and Bat Cave that the community really had to work together, and that camaraderie still lives with them right now. The scars of Helene can still be seen in Bat Cave. Damaged homes still lie on the edge of cliffs, and the sound of rain, wind, and landslides from that day can still be heard in Steve Freeman's mind.
It was kind of shell shock. You know, it was a lot to take in.
Freeman is the chief of the Bat Cave Volunteer Fire Department and the rock of the community. He rarely shows emotion, but carries the weight of the town on his shoulders. Freeman and his firefighters knocked on every door ahead of the storm, urging people to evacuate.
The Weather Service put out it was going to be as bad as the 1916 flood.
But as Helene approached, the storm arrived at Freeman's own front door.
So I went out the kitchen door and went beside my pole garage just in time to look up and see the slide coming down the mountain, and it pinned my head against an old backhoe I had there. And I couldn't get my head out for a split second, and then God just moved it back enough for me to pull back, and I fell through it.
Freeman and his firefighters quickly turned their focus to rescuing people trapped in their homes. The only way they could get people out was by helicopter. Five days after Helene, Freeman met Jake Jarvis, who owns Precision Grading, and brought his construction equipment to Bat Cave to check on a friend.
He met me in tears and said that, you know, they had no access to Bat Cave other than helicopter. And if I could help them in any way, that, you know, they'd be forever grateful.
Since that day, Jake has only left the Bat Cave area to sleep. He comes back every day to help those whose homes were damaged or destroyed, charging nothing for his work.
Just wherever we see a need or hear about a need, we just jump in and, you know, the best we can. And if it's something we can help with, we tackle it and do it.
Jake and his team have completed about 300 projects in the region since last fall and have about 100 more.
A lot of people were trying to get them back home, whatever it takes.
When we caught up with Jake, he was building a wall for April Blair.
I think it's absolutely astonishing
April lived along the river for nearly a decade, but when Helene hit, she saw the waters rise in a way she had never seen before.
Our neighbor came banging on the door to get us out as houses above the river were coming down. We were nervous and we ran across the street. 10 minutes later, the house was gone.
Watching videos she took from that day is still painful for her.
This is us walking through the house and finding the water surrounding the house.
The river destroyed her home, but with Jake's help, she found the strength to rebuild.
The house is close to being done. It feels great to feel like something normal is about to happen.
Down the river in Chimney Rock, Matt Bands and his family watched as their restaurant of 30 years, Riverwatch Bar and Grill, was destroyed.
The storm came ripping through the valley here and down the river and basically carved out what you see now. Everything around here was just, the landscape was basically just cleaned off.
Since the storm, the Bands family worked together to rebuild the restaurant's deck themselves. And in August, they reopened their doors.
It's funny because you do something for so long and then it stops and then it starts back up again. And as soon as it starts back up again, you get that exact same feeling again, like, you know, everything's going to be okay.
While the community is slowly reaching milestones like this, Jake, who has helped so many, still fears that another storm could bring more destruction.
You know, I stay here if there's bad weather predicted because that way I'm here, I'm on site, my machines are here. If somebody's in trouble, I'm there.
That mindset is what keeps him going.
The entire Western North Carolina population, I would say, is amazingly resilient, and they refuse to give up. It just shows that it'd take a lot more to break them than this.
Jake, who we met in Bat Cave, says the work here in Western North Carolina has meant so much to him that he wants to continue doing relief work around the country. I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, you hear that so much across the western part of the state. What do you know about the lake here in Lake Lure?
Well, we got some really exciting news. The town announced that they hope to reopen the lake to the public in spring of 2026, and that's just going to make such an impact here in this community because the town really revolves around the lake.
Yeah, be a big moment. Chloe, thank you.
Thank you.
When we return, we head to Marshall and check in with a coffee shop, hoping a jolt of caffeine will help rejuvenate the tiny town. One year ago, lives and livelihoods washed away.
It's still unbelievable.
But the resilience of these mountain communities on display against impossible odds.
But after I panicked for 4 or 5 minutes, I said, this really isn't any time to panic.
As our journey through the last 12 months continues, the power of people helping friends, strangers, and each other is turning nightmares into new beginnings.
3, 2, 1.
What has happened here has totally renewed my faith in humanity.
Welcome back to Helene. 1 year later, I'm Tim Boyum. So far, we've been to Fairview. We visited Swannanoa and the Lake Lure area. Now, we're here in Marshall. It's beautiful. Catching up with our very own Nick Buffalo. Nick, good to see you.
Hey, Tim.
Man, I love these little mountain towns.
They're great, aren't they? Yeah. And Marshall specifically, it really feels like we are walking on the set of a movie. Yeah. And that quaintness is why so many folks call this place home. But if you think about it, a year ago when Helene was passing over this area, we're right next to the French Broad River, and the French Broad essentially took over this entire downtown. Wow. Where we are right now, we would have been completely underwater. I mean, with it gutted so many buildings here, including businesses that have been here for at least a decade or so. And while, yes, you look around, you see some of them are still in the rebuilding process, thanks to the community, many of them have reopened.
Marshall is one of those one-light towns where the only traffic you'll see this early is a school bus.
Good morning, how are you? Doing good, how are you?
And walking along the sidewalk is Joel Friedman, strolling in from his home on Main Street to open up his shop, Zuma Coffee.
We opened up at the end of April.
It's a quiet start. Only the sound of grinding beans disrupts the silence. Friedman opened Zuma nearly 25 years ago after moving from big city Atlanta to the small river town in Madison County.
I thought it was a movie set at first. It looked too good to be true.
instantly charmed by its fresh air, beauty, and
community.
That word acts as caffeine,
It's hard to take anything for granted at this point,
energizing Friedman's commitment to serve.
but we are grateful for every day right now.
Grateful because nearly a year ago,
In the shop here was 8 foot 2 inches.
he was on the other side of the French Broad River, watching the floodwaters overtake Main Street from his third-floor apartment window.
My friend Joel's business.
This video from his friend Josh shows the raging river
Total loss.
destroying his business.
He was standing on the courthouse steps. Water came in and my windows broke out and he could see things starting to float out of here.
Taking tables and chairs and all of the memories right out with it.
So at that point I'm thinking it's time to reinvent myself. I need to either figure out how to retire or get a job somewhere. Thanks, John.
When we stopped here in February, we saw Friedman had quickly adapted, running his beloved shop out of a donated coffee truck,
Thank y'all so much.
serving as a familiar sight for this devastated community.
I know what I've done here over the last 24 years has made a big difference in our community, and I see it in the faces of the people, I hear it in their voices, and I see it in the resilience of the community.
Even though the scars of Helene remain, Marshall is showing signs of progress, and Friedman's shop looks like nothing ever happened, where 2-hour parking isn't enforced inside, where a construction worker taps the piano keys while waiting for a breakfast burrito, and where conversation and laughter fuel the day, is once again Marshall's meeting place for people like Kay Burgess,
Wonderful town. We don't want any more people moving here.
who comes here every day for their
Poppy seed muffins.
poppy seed muffins.
It felt really wonderful to have the people that you know here.
2 large coffees?
It's all thanks to the community, which Friedman says has come together to support him and others.
When I had the truck, I always use the expression, keep on trucking, and that's what Marshall has done. We have kept on trucking.
About 45 minutes away in Haywood County along the Pigeon River, you'll find Clyde, a town with a main street that's about a block long.
You can kind of see the watermarks on the doors over there.
It's where Kristen Rogers grew up
There were people living in all of these houses before the flood.
and is now watching business owners give up after being hit with major flooding 4 times in 2 decades.
Goldie's has been here, I would say, at least 20 plus years, probably more like 50 years, to be honest. They're not coming back. I mean, they're not going to be able to reopen their doors because it was 8 feet high this time in there.
A painful reality that Rogers knows all too well.
We had 4 feet of water in this side.
Rogers owns 74 Main Salon,
We have to completely do a full rehab on this building.
which is just around the corner from the other businesses.
It took us a good week and a half to get everything cleaned out of here and then to tear everything down.
This 500 square foot building is Rogers' pride and joy.
Out of everything that was left, we have the original first 74 Main sign.
When you look at that sign, what do you think?
We've come a long way.
Just like in Marshall, community members banded together to help Rogers clean up.
I keep looking at this and it makes me sick to my stomach.
And through grants and donations,
So this is our pedicure area.
she was able to raise $75,000 to rebuild.
These run around $6,000 a piece.
Now, she and her employees are next door
You have product in your hair?
inside a bigger building that she's grateful to have bought 3 years before the storm.
If it wasn't for having the building, we wouldn't have had a place to come back to.
As someone who has always been about helping others, she is back to making her clients feel better about themselves
To be more confident in the hair that they were given.
under a relaxing backdrop of colorful murals and whimsical decorations.
Even though we didn't envision it this way, just makes me that much more grateful for what we have and where we are.
And given the bigger space, she can hire more stylists and bring in more clients. Yet, as each storm passes over this small mountain town, Rogers admits she is nervous about the river taking away her business again.
It does, but at the same time, I have faith and trust that whatever does come our way, we will be able to kind of get through it.
Back at Marshall's meeting place, Friedman seems a bit wary about his chances of rebounding a second time.
Not only was it a once-in-a-lifetime experience, to go through it. I think it would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience to build back up again.
But as life moves full steam ahead, both Rogers and Friedman are each putting their foot on the gas and leaving Helene in their rear view. You know, Tim, Friedman and Rogers' stories are obviously ones of resilience, but that has not, as we saw there in Clyde, the case for every business owner in Western North Carolina. In fact, I caught up with one in December, a business owner in Canton who has owned a dry cleaning shop there for multiple decades. He is 80-some years old, and he tells me that he is now filing for bankruptcy and is just simply unable to reopen and is working in the legal process of selling his life's work.
Best wishes to him. Nick, thank you. When we return, we'll head to two of the most rural areas in Western North Carolina where they had to rely on each other after being virtually cut off from the rest of the world. Welcome back to Helene. 1 year later, I'm Tim Boehm. We're coming to you now from Burnsville in Yancey County along the beautiful Cane River. We're here now with our Courtney Davis, who has spent a lot of time up here.
Yeah, Tim, I mean, before the storm, I had never been to Yancey or Mitchell counties, but I've been coming up here about once a month since the storm. And as you can see, I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous
Stunning
up here. But they have gone through a lot this year. And when this storm first hit, keep in mind, these are two of the most rural counties of North Carolina. So this storm completely cut them off the map from everyone, cut off all communication. So it really was up to the residents here, and they all came together to help one another in their community. And they are continuing with that efforts to help rebuild homes one step at a time.
Is everybody ready?
Sherry Housley knew this day was coming ever since Helene hit last September.
Never in my wildest dreams would I ever think, I mean, not even in my nightmares would I have thought I'd be sitting here watching something like this.
And just like a nightmare, she's shaken as she watches her family home torn down.
This is so surreal. I mean, I'm just sitting thinking about all the pennies they pinched to buy the lumber.
Sherry's family bought the property in Micaville when she was just 3 years old.
I just, you know, I climbed trees, and I was out here barefoot all spring and summer.
In 1977, the home she grew up in was destroyed in one of the area's worst floods on record.
FEMA brought in a single wide trailer, and they lived in that until they could build this one.
Slowly, Sherry says her parents worked to build their dream home on higher grounds to ensure it would never flood again. But nearly 50 years later, Helene washed that dream away, flooding the home with more than 7 feet of water.
That wall, that was the beginning of the house. That was the first section built.
Leaving the 74-year-old cancer survivor hopeless for the future.
I just figured, like all my life, I'm going to have to do this on my own.
With all of her belongings swept away, she set off for town to get supplies.
To be honest, before the storm, I was kind of jaded about humanity.
But then she met Stephanie Johnson.
She had heard that we were giving away tools, and she come to see me and she said, I need some tools.
You had started at the Roses parking lot,
Yes.
just with a distribution hub and everything.
Yes.
Did you think that was just going to be for a couple days?
I kept thinking that someone that knew what they were doing were going to come and take over and do this.
She now runs Rebuilding Hollers,
I've got 3 full rebuilds happening right along here.
a nonprofit she operates like a project management construction firm.
It's going to be in between 8 and 9.
Overseeing more than 500 rebuild projects across Yancey and Mitchell counties.
19W, I wanted to take you to project number 9.
Yeah.
They're staying on walls today.
While she keeps things on track, Stephanie says it wouldn't be possible without the determination of her neighbors. A sentiment shared when we met her back in February, when she partnered with Mountain Heritage High School carpentry teacher Jeremy Dotz and his class.
It has been huge for these boys. I love coming in here to see them. They come in on snow days, even when school is closed. They're here building.
Perseverance that has continued outside the classroom.
Andrew, this is amazing. Thank you. You went from building in the high school to building on job sites.
I know.
I'm so proud of you.
I wouldn't have done anything else.
I know it.
As students like Andrew Carpenter have taken their skills to other job sites in the community.
Here, Andrew's a perfect example. He is on a job rebuilding homes that were completely destroyed.
It's not just high school students.
He stepped up to the plate and jumped into action.
Mitchell County Commissioner Harley Masters says since the storm hit, many people in the community continue to jump into action.
You had just regular citizens who just happened to have a chainsaw, and they would just take turns like trying to cut their way into town.
Still, Harley says even a year after the storm, it's hard to look back.
When did it start really hitting overnight then of how that this one's a little different? Really, when the storm started hitting about 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning until about 8, it was just, I mean, we've never experienced anything like that before.
Both Yancey and Mitchell counties experienced unprecedented rainfall during Helene and the days leading up to the storm, totaling upwards of 30 inches in some spots, leading to devastating landslides and disastrous flooding, while high winds toppled trees across entire mountainsides, stranding people back in the hollers and cutting off communication.
That was very difficult for me because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Nobody was ready for a complete blackout.
But Harley says the community's resilience gave her hope.
They didn't know what to do, but they knew they needed to do something, so they just started rebuilding the road that was completely washed out.
While the progress since the storm is encouraging, especially in hard-hit areas like Relief and Poplar, Harley says driving around, you can still see how much more is left to do.
There's no way to get to these trees, and so that's just adding to the fuel load when it comes fire season.
A similar concern for Stephanie Johnson, who took us back to one of the hardest hit areas in Yancey County, Pensacola.
That river came up, this creek came in, and this entire place was just completely underwater.
The area is unrecognizable from a year ago. Still, Stephanie says they have a long way to go.
It has taken so long to get a tiny bit of normalcy, but for so many there is no normalcy yet. They're living through a war zone.
With some of the hardest battles still ahead.
What I'm nervous about right now is the winter. The winter is quickly approaching again, and we still have so many families living in RVs on their property or in campgrounds, and they just want to get home.
But the little wins are what keeps her going.
Amazing how they could do that.
And luckily, 1 year after the storm, she and her new friend Miss Sherry have quite the big win to celebrate.
Touchdown.
That house built by the high school carpentry class,
Oh, jeez.
that's going on a raised foundation on Miss Sherry's family's land in Micaville.
It's been a roller coaster. It's definitely been a roller coaster.
Allowing Miss Sherry to move into her new sanctuary just in time for winter. All thanks to the compassion of strangers.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Who make up this now tight-knit community.
Community is everything. That is the key. And what has happened here has totally renewed my faith in humanity.
It's a home. It's a home. I can already feel it. Being snuggled in there this winter and just being at home.
And Tim, obviously they have made incredible progress in the last year here in both of these counties, but there's still so much work left to do. And one of the big concerns from residents here is that, you know, once we hit this year mark, that people will forget about them and forget about their stories, which is why they're hoping that they'll be able to continue to share those stories and that people keep bringing aid to this area.
Yep, I've heard that a lot too. Courtney, thank you. Time for us to hit the road. We're headed to the Boone area next. We're going to catch up with one of our reporters, not only covering storm victims, but became one herself. Welcome back to Helene 1 year later. I'm Tim Boyum. We're wrapping up our trip here in Vilas, just outside of Boone, meeting up with our journalist Rose Eckler, who not only covered storm victims, but became one herself. Hey Rose.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. So I've heard all the stories. Tell us what happened.
So we actually had a landslide here and a whole lot of flooding. Right behind this fence was my neighbor's house. It's gone now. all of the trees came down and hit the house on every side and pushed it off its foundation. So they had to remove the house. The house hit the cars, which hit the fence. We did have a fence here. All of the debris came rushing down and tore the fence out. So this used to be my son's playground, but it's now gone. It was destroyed. Ever since Helene, now that we have this new slope here, every time it rains, water comes rushing down at us and we almost flood. This whole area looks like a waterfall.
So there's a fear every time it rains?
It is. It's very scary every time it rains. We have no idea if it's gonna come into our house. My husband's out here with a shovel most times trying to push it away from the outside of our house. Now you can see when the mud came through this way that day, it ended up in there. You can still see it. Right, you could still see it on the door, and it was just so heavy that it pushed the door and it bent in the door. So we've never been able to close it again.
So this is one side of the mountain. You know the man on the other side, right?
I do. His name is Joe Sherwood. We say we're connected by the mountain. It came down on both sides. Hit my neighbor's house and hit his. His house was also destroyed. He has not been able to be on his property since Helene. He's been living with his sister, but now he can finally go home.
I first met Joe Sherwood just weeks after Helene destroyed his home. In the small mountain community of Vilas, where I live, just west of Boone. His red shirt and sense of humor made him unforgettable.
Grandpa Sherwood got run over by a piano. It'd be to the music of Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
That signature smile, hiding a remarkable story of survival.
I looked outside, out the back window, and the water was rising fast. I had 2 6-inch drains, perforated drains, gravel over it, gravel under it. They worked super, except in the storm. It was rising fast. And I said to myself, there's nothing I can do about it.
Joe went to his bedroom to ride out the storm. When it happened, a piano came through the wall from the garage.
It turned over on top of me, pinned me there for 3 hours.
Trapped, Joe prayed for a miracle.
I thought maybe that was the end of my road. And all of a sudden I said, this is no time for panic, time for prayer. And I got to praying, and all of a sudden a peace came over me. I mean, I wasn't worried about it anymore. I said, everything's gonna be all right.
Hours later, his prayers were answered.
This young guy come through the back window, he beat the window out. I said, welcome to my house. I'm glad to see you. You'll never know how glad I am to see you.
A year later, we're back to check on Joe, where he took us inside his brand new home.
Stove, stainless steel, microwave. I'm tickled to death. People pull together better than any time I've ever seen in my life. How spacious.
It's the things like a Bible sitting on the counter signed by volunteers who helped, and little notes on these walls that give him thanks.
A big thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll never be able to say thank you enough. I love it. I'm not out here.
Joe can't wait to get back on that porch.
You go from nothing to this, so how could you not be excited?
Still wearing red, still cracking those familiar jokes.
Write a song. Grandpa Sherwood got run over by a piano to the same tune as Grandma got run over by a reindeer. And maybe it'll go #1 in 2 weeks. We need the money.
Even after receiving this home and a brand new car from Samaritan's Purse,
So help me, I've watched it twice.
he's still the same humble man with a huge heart.
I'd like to tell everybody personally, one-on-one, but I can't. I just have to tell them thank you this way. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It's so good to see Joe back in his home, but Rose, I wonder about you. You're doing this every day working, but you are living it too. What has it been like?
It's been very hard. It's been living and breathing Helene 24 hours a day for a year. When I'm at work, I interview people that have been through it, and I feel their pain because I'm living that same pain. I see the destruction on their property, and it reminds me of what mine looked like when we came home that day. It's living it over and over again. We see Helene every time I go to work. I see Helene every time I come home. I see Helene every time it rains and we almost flood. But they're my friends, they're my neighbors, they're my community. So I have to go out and tell those stories. It's not easy, but it's something I have to do.
Yeah, well, we're grateful for everything you've done at work, and best wishes for everything here at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Throughout this trip, we've seen plenty of heartbreak. We've seen plenty of hope. We've seen plenty of work left to be done, but plenty of progress as well. What stands out is the spirit of the mountains, the people. Canton Mayor Zeb Smathers refers to it as grit and grace. Grit, that toughness, generations of people here to survive in the mountain wilderness, but also grace, that willingness to help a neighbor in need. We're grateful they shared their stories with us. I'm grateful you came along for the ride.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your community, click the subscribe button here. You can also download the Spectrum News app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.